Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your full name.
Kacey Wiltz
And how are you employed?
with the Lawrence Police Department.
How long have you been employed with the Lawrence Police Department?
6 years.
And what is your current rank?
I'm a corporal.
Okay. And are you familiar with Brad Williams?
I am.
How do you know him?
I worked patrol with him.
And were you on the same shift, or did you have occasion to sort of observe his activities as an officer?
Kind of both. I was on the same shift, and then I worked an overlapping shift.
And at some point, did you have any concerns about his policing?
I did.
And what were those concerns?
I had concerns that he was stopping a large amount of female citizens over male citizens for DUIs.
And what specifically led to you having that concern?
Just listening to radio traffic throughout the shift, there's a couple officers on the shift that I would talk to, and we all kind of had the same concern.
And once you had that concern, did you or anyone that you know of do any sort of statistic or record keeping?
Yeah, so there was an officer, Narissa Dunn, who no longer works for the department, but she used our OpenFox system, or our full court system through OpenFox that kind of tracks our citations. So it will give you like how many citations the officer wrote, who they wrote it to, male, female, age, race, and she used that full court system to kind of track his stops.
Have you ever done that for a different officer?
I have not.
Have you ever heard activity enough that led you to be concerned enough to keep stats for other officers?
No.
And when Officer Dunn was keeping the stats, were you at times present with her?
Yes.
And you were aware of some of the stats that she was keeping?
Yes.
Are you able to recall any specific stats on any nights?
Well, I do remember that she would run like a month at a time, and the ratio was 10 women to 1 man for the DUI stops and the citations, because that's what she was running. So the only data that I saw or can tell you that I witnessed her run was the, probably a 10 to 1 ratio of female to male arrests.
And that was arrest for OUI or MIP or both?
Just the OUI.
Okay. Did anyone else ever expressly tell you a concern about Officer Williams?
Yes.
Who was that?
I mean, I can give you names of officers that worked with them. I can give you a list of names here at the department. I think everybody knew that it was happening. It was just, hey, how can we either track this? Because that's what we do, we're police officers. How can we get some evidence? How can we track this data? How can we prove that this is something that he's doing? And that's when I think Narissa took it upon herself to run those numbers and get that ratio. That's the only day I saw. I'm not really sure what she did after that, but.
How many officers have you personally discussed your concerns about Officer Williams with?
Probably over 10.
And when when was that happening? Was that throughout his whole employment or during?
Yes.
Okay. Were there any concerns before he came that by you?
Not by me, because I didn't really pay attention to the county traffic before he worked for the police department.
Did you have any concerns about backing Officer Williams?
I did.
What were your concerns?
Well, I was never really sure if this traffic stop was legal. A lot of us had talked about why he was stopping people, if it was a tag light or a brake light. There was a lot of people thought that he would pull next to the person, see if it was a male or female, and then stop the car. And we didn't know what the basis for the stop was. So nobody wanted to back him on a traffic stop because we didn't want to get, held liable for something that wasn't legal.
And you personally had that concern?
Yes.
Based on what you observed, did you believe that Officer Williams was engaging in bias-based policing against females?
Yes.
And what did you base that on?
His radio traffic, the data that Narissa Dunn obtained through the full court system, just the way he treated women when he stopped them. You know, I actually complained to a supervisor when I backed him on a call, and I didn't think something that he did was right. So there were several reasons.
And what was the nature of the complaint when you were backing him on a female stop?
I thought he wasn't treating the female with respect, and he wanted to tow the vehicle when there was no reason to tow the vehicle. There was a sober driver that could drive the vehicle that was in the vehicle, and he wanted to tow it. And when he left and took the person to jail, I let the sober driver take the vehicle, and I didn't think it was right.
Did you ever observe that kind of behavior or activity on stops of males?
I don't think I ever backed him on a stop with a male.
So in your experience of backing him, he was only ever stopping females?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know, are you aware of whether anyone ever expressed these concerns to Mr. Williams?
I think Narissa did. I think once she had the data, I think she went to him with it, yes.
Are you aware of what the result of that conversation was?
I wasn't. She didn't share that with me.
But she did tell you that she went to him?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions.
Your officer, you said that when you talked to one of your fellow female officers, she told you that the OUI stop data was 10-to-1 females to males. Was that your testimony?
Yes.
The commission has seen the actual females to males data, and I'll represent to you it's not 10-to-1. So if it's not 10-to-1, do you have an explanation as to how she came up with a false number?
Objection to it being a false number.
The commission has the data. I think it's not 10-to-1 for OUI. I think it's a proper question.
I don't believe the question's proper in this form, so you can restate or
Sure.
move on.
Is it your testimony that the data actually shows female to male OUI stops is 10-to-1?
Yes.
Is that based upon your own personal observation of the data?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, just a minute, I'm going to get some numbers out. I'll represent to you that there's a document and evidence that shows for self-initiated OUI arrests for Officer Williams that male, and for the panel, this is on Exhibit 7, although the page is unnumbered, it's actually page number 6. At the top it says Officer V. Williams, self-initiated OUI arrests. I'll represent to you, officer, that the data actually shows 36% male, 64% female. Do you understand that?
I would object to the form of the question. I mean, he's questioning her about a document that I don't believe that she's seen. She's testified what she observed, and I'm happy to redirect on that.
This is a foundation for the next question.
And I'm going to have to ask you to tell me where you're referring again.
Okay. Can I step around and show?
You got it.
It's this page. Right here. So if Lieutenant Unruh's data for male OUI arrest for Officer Williams is 36% male, 64% female, would that be 10 to 1?
I would object to the form of the question. He stated that this state's OUI arrest, this state's self-initiated OUI arrests.
I'm talking about self-initiated.
And there's no evidence that that's what she's talking about.
Let me have a short moment with the panel's going to sustain the objection. I think we believe that we are talking about completely different sets of data here, time frames.
Officer, when you gave the 10 to 1, what time frame was that?
It was when Narissa Dunn was pulling up the information, she pulled it up a night at a time. So when I was sitting beside her and she was pulling it up, it was for the one night. I couldn't tell you the date. I can't remember that. But it was for...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Were you finished?
Sure, go ahead.
So when she pulled it up a night at a time, how many nights did she look at?
I only saw one.
One night?
That was what the 10 to 1 ratio was from.
So you're saying in one night, the stops he made were 10 females to 1 male. Is that your testimony?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know what the reason was for the stops?
I don't.
Okay. You gave some testimony about people thought Officer Williams might be pulling up alongside people, checking the gender, and then stopping them. Do you remember saying that?
I do.
Did you ever observe that happening?
No.
Or can you identify any officer who ever saw that happen?
I've heard from a couple officers. Yes, do you want their names?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. It was the people that were on a shift. Officer Inman, Officer Prue, specifically.
And when did this happen?
I didn't ask that question.
How many times did it happen?
I didn't ask that question.
As a police officer, is it normal when you pull up to a stoplight or a stop sign to look over into a vehicle that's next to you?
I do not do that. I mean, I don't do it every time.
Have you ever heard the expression that law enforcement officers use, saying head on a swivel?
Yes.
Be aware of your surroundings.
Yep.
All right. Now, you had a chance to talk to Lieutenant Unruh, is that correct?
Correct.
And he has just testified before you did. I want to ask you to verify whether or not you told him a couple things. You just went to get to the right page. All right, now when you were interviewed by Lieutenant Unruh, he asked you if you had a conversation with Captain Woods about Williams, is that correct?
Yep.
And you told him you didn't remember the conversation, is that right?
Correct.
You weren't lying, you just genuinely didn't remember it, right?
Correct.
Then, Officer Wiltz, you were asked if there was any known reason for Officer Williams arresting more females than males, and you actually responded, you did not know why this was occurring, didn't you?
I would have to go back and read my statement to him, but I don't know why.
Okay.
I can tell you that now.
All right. And he also asked you a question about targeting, and you said that you do not know if Officer Williams targets anyone. But the evidence tends to show otherwise. That's what you told him, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the evidence that you're talking about, is this the statistical data that's pulled up for that one night?
And the radio traffic and backing him on car stops.
Okay. And the radio traffic was after he had already made the decision to stop, right?
Correct.
Those are all the questions I have. Thank you, officer.
You're welcome.
I just have one redirect. When Officer Dunn ran the statistics on that one night that you saw, did she filter out self-initiated stops, or did she just run all of the OUI arrests?
I mean, the OUI arrests are self-initiated. We don't get called to make OUI arrests. So it's kind of the same thing. So it's self-initiated. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Would you know if he was dispatched to like a crash, or if he was backing an officer?
No, I don't know what the specifics were.
Okay. No further questions.
I have one follow-up. Well, don't calls go out sometimes from dispatch that there's a report of someone driving recklessly or weaving in and out of areas, and it directs the officers to look for them in that area?
Yes, but then an OUI call is initiated. So the OUI is always self-initiated. The attempt to locate stays an attempt to locate. But when you then do an OUI, it's a self-initiated activity.
Right, but it's in response to a dispatch. It's in response to a dispatch. If you're told to look for that car and you find it, that's in response to a dispatch. Would you agree?
Right, but as far as the data, like it would be a self-initiated OUI. That's what I'm saying.
I understand that. I'm trying to differentiate between dispatched and non-dispatched. Thank you.
No further questions, and I'd ask that she be released.
Any objection?
No, sir.
Thank you for your, I'm sorry.
Officer Wiltz, thank you for your testimony, and you may be released and go about your
Thank you.
business. Thank you.
You can just leave the meeting. Thank you.